envision three female attorneys coming together to have our voices heard. Each of us would have different opinions, different passions, different backgrounds, and different views. Although we are different and unique, we are able to come together to discuss our experiences, navigating through the legal profession and this thing called life. Now, the vision has come alive, and we invite you each and every week to listen to us as we talk about what's trending in the news and our legal insight. Tackle real life issues that affect not only us as attorneys, but us as women of color. Disclaimer: this podcast is intended to provide entertainment and general information. The information provided and the views given are not intended to constitute legal advice and should not be relied upon as legal representation. All views expressed on this podcast are our own and do not represent the opinions of any entity whatsoever we are affiliated with now or will be affiliated with in the future. The episode of No Further Questions to all three of us has been together. Because last month, well, January and February for me was a little rough. So, but I am glad to be back. How's everybody doing this morning?
I'm good.
Good.
I am good.
As the old people used to say, blessed and highly favored in the Lord.
You took it back, Taria. You took it all the way back, Chad.
Well, let me reintroduce myself for those that are tuning in for the first time to our No Further Questions. This is, my name is Brandy. Sam, let the people know who you are.
I'm Sam Frazier. I'm here today and I'm ready to talk Black history facts.
And T. Hutch, let them people
know.
I
round up the rear. I'm Taria, and I'm here just to add in and chime in when needed.
She's our resident.
Give us some looks. Give us some.
Right. I'm about to say she's our resident model because this face is beat, honey.
Right.
Oh, thank you. God bless y'all, because it was only 5 minutes. I woke up late.
Giving us a good nude lip chat.
I know. Wait a minute. Flip the hair real quick. You got to flip the hair. There we go. See?
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
Y'all looking for a model? Call her.
This is Walgreens, people. This is Walgreens.
Oh, now
Walgreens.
You what?
Oh.
Don't tell them because we're not sponsored. Don't tell them who.
Right. But if Walgreens, if you
go to Walgreens and try to, do a screenshot and try to place the color.
Correct.
And go tell Walgreens we gave them a shout out so we can get their sponsorship money.
Right.
Correct.
Well, okay, so we're in the month of March. However, Texas has went through a lot when this episode was supposed to come on about Black history. I know y'all probably,
We're going through in Texas.
We're an embarrassing state right now.
We last state to end slavery, and I feel like we're gonna be the last state to get rid of the coronavirus.
We like to
then we'll be able to have a holiday. We'll get some barbecue out of it. It'll be in the museums. We will turn it around.
Correct.
We're gonna be in the Smithsonian. Mm-hmm.
Correct.
We're gonna be in the Smithsonian. That's what we can say out of this. So we're gonna talk about Black history and the history of Black history. So before we get started to get in, what do y'all think Black history is? Like, what is your own personal definition of Black history? Because like for me, Black history is my history. Like, it's my history. It's my ancestors' history. It's everybody who's Black. That's history.
So I will say this. I think that for me, Black history is taking the extra effort to acknowledge how African Americans have contributed to American culture. But I will say the one thing that annoys me is that why is it like a designation for Black history, and why isn't it just taught year round? Like, we all know who Christopher Columbus is, right? We all learned about George Washington. So why can't we just learn about George Washington and Frederick Douglass? Why do we only have to just put it in?
Right. Taria, put a pin in that because we're gonna go back to that.
I would say it's to make us not forget our past, because I think a lot of times our past is so violent and so much trauma is there that a lot of the younger people that are coming up just want to forget, right? And there's other races that want us to forget and say it's been a long time ago. But if you forget, then how can you really appreciate where you are? So I think that's, to me, why Black history is still so important. So we can learn about the people we're not sure of. There's more than just Rosa Parks, MLK, Frederick Douglass, Malcolm X, and the Black Panthers. There's way more than that. So giving everybody an opportunity to learn more about that, and even us as people, you know.
And let me just say this is that even now, as an adult, I've learned so much about the Black Panther Party and the way that it was portrayed to you as a kid is not, it was so much more. Like, you know, it's painted as like this militia, right? And this negative connotation, but the Black Panther Party had their own schools. They really more were about unity, right? Against oppressed groups, not just Black people.
Yeah, because they brought a lot of oppressed groups together. They fought, you know, racial injustice for the Hispanics.
Yes.
It's like they gave them an eye opener to see, you know what, we can all come together. We don't have to fight each other. And, you know, they put food into the community. Like, you know, they would have free lunch programs. They would have, you know, activities for the children. So I agree with you. Black Panther growing up made it seem like they was killing cops. Period.
Correct. Right. Like, it was like, down with the pigs, you know, it's like, and there were people that were like that, because my mom made a conscious effort when I was growing up to teach me to say the police. I couldn't even say cops as a kid because my mom was like, that's disrespectful to law enforcement. So I always had to say police officers. But you're taught that it was this radical group that was like down with the pigs and, you know, was very violent. And there were people who were like that, but they did so much for the community. And I think that a lot of that gets overshadowed.
Like, have y'all seen the movie Judas and the Black Messiah yet?
Girl, yes. Did y'all know about him? I will be honest, I had no clue who he was.
I had no idea. And I want to watch it again because it was so deep. I feel like I missed a lot of stuff. I need to go back and watch it again.
Same. I knew who he was. I did know who he was, but I didn't know that importance of his role, because I knew it was Huey P. Newton and I knew it was Fred Hampton. I also didn't realize Fred Hampton was that young because they assassinated him at the age of 21. Yes. That was shocking to me. And then I had a conversation with people, and it's like, it's sad how Black people, we can turn on each other so much for our own selfishness.
Correct.
And we look at the white man as a mentor. Because you heard in the interview, he said he looked at the FBI guy as that was his mentor.
I feel like that wasn't quite honest. He wanted to get out for his own self-serving interests. He was going to prison, and he sold his soul.
But he was young as well, and I think you know
he was young.
He was like 18 or something.
Yeah,
there are things that, and I know people aren't going to want to hear this, but being grown at 18 and being grown at 25 or 28 or 30 are two totally different things, right? So the things and decisions that you made as an 18-year-old, you probably wouldn't make, I hope you wouldn't make those same decisions at 28, or at least, you know, think some more before you make them. But I think from the Fred Hampton side, it made me pause and say, have I done enough at the age of 21 where I put such an impact and mark on society that someone was willing to take my life at 21? And my answer is no. I wasn't doing anything. Nobody was checking for me.
Right.
I should take Tari out.
Maybe like one of my ex-boyfriends or something.
Yeah,
maybe like on the same scale.
Maybe that, because I was,
you know, maybe a few bitter booze, but nothing. Nothing on that. I wasn't even mature enough to even process that. Like, I don't think at 18 I would be down with the movement. You know, I'd be focused on something completely different, you know. But these young people were so insightful and so passionate. And I think it's so sad that in our own community, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, most of our leaders have been taken down because of informants. within our own program. Even Martin Luther King and the
Mhm.
assassination, because you have to ask yourself, how do you know he was at that hotel?
Malcolm X. Did y'all watch One Night in Miami?
I didn't.
See, One Night in Miami. Now it makes sense why Malcolm X was always paranoid.
I
Because
I loved it. I thought it was I'm also a Virginia King fan, but I loved it. I thought it was an excellent movie to really look at the individual men because we
Yeah.
know all of them.
mhm.
You know, as Malcolm X, I've always thought of him as just the militant one, the loud one, the one that was just
Yeah.
always going against. But to see something portrayed from the human side of things and the fact that he probably was, you know, always looking over his shoulder and you just can't trust anybody knowing that you're not going to be able to see all this hard work that you're doing, right? You're never going to get there.
And that's sad. Even Medgar Evers, we really never, they teach a little bit about him, in the books. He was also, a civil rights activist, shot down in his home in Mississippi. We never got to see the full extent of what the greatness of our Black men, Black women could have done, because our leaders are gone. They shot and killed informants. And I'm sitting here looking at our running the show and realize that as we have this conversation, we ain't been on topic.
Well, we have, I mean, it's an organic conversation.
Exactly.
This is
and
not
that's why I love our conversations, because it's like, oh yeah, we talking about Black history, but girl, did you see Black Judas and the Black Messiah? Let's talk about it.
I have to watch the One Night in Miami. I did not. I will say, when it comes to stuff like this, I have to be in the right frame of mind, because I still have to go out into the world. And so I have to really be in the right frame of mind to watch some of these films and things, because you see.
Well, One Night in Miami is really, so the thing about it is it's a little bit more, like, for a better word, lighthearted, because it is more about the relationships with all them together. So it's definitely has some teachable moments. It definitely brings you more insight into their personalities than what you knew before. Like with Sam Cooke and Jim Brown. Was it Jim Brown? They were portraying. See, it brought more to me learning about Sam Cooke and Jim Brown.
Right.
Like, I know who they were. Like, I've heard of Sam Cooke, of course. He was a musician, but just to seeing him portray, oh, okay, it was a little bit more. Jim Brown, even more. Like, I didn't really realize from football player, how passionate he was about acting, because it seems like to him that was really a thing for him. He really wanted to act more. So it's not like, Judas and the Messiah, where you do got to be in your right frame of mind.
Right.
But One Night in Miami is more like, just the history behind each of the men, and then have their relationships together. So yeah.
But I wish when we have films like this that non-Black people would take the time to watch as well. I mean, because we're learning, we're being insightful, but so many people want to tell us to forget our history, or that's old news. And you don't even know. Like, I had some white colleagues who didn't know who Harriet Tubman was, but they want to talk about slavery was 400 years ago. Well, you don't even know who Harriet Tubman is, so how do you know when slavery ended? Like, tell me. So I would just.
No, go ahead.
So going back to subject on Black History Month, I wonder, is Black History Month for us, or is it to educate non-Black people? Or, I mean, I know that it's for everyone, but you see, especially this year, all the companies were, we're in this together. We are one voice, the Black voice, like you go order Uber Eats, support Black business. You go to Amazon, here are all the Black books and movies that you can watch. Everything is Black, 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 Black. But I wonder, is it for us to feel included, or is it to educate those that are non-Black to participate, or is it kind of a mix of both?
So I actually, and I don't know if I'm in a minority on this, I loved what just happened this last month. I love the discounts Uber Eats gave. I love that Target made it a point to really showcase Black businesses, and Amazon as well. I love the commercials. I loved the Super Bowl, and how they really brought in different artists to come in during the Super Bowl. If this would have happened at the creation of Black History Month, we wouldn't need it now. And that's the problem. It's one of those things. Why do we have Black History Month? We have Black History Month because no one wanted to acknowledge the creators who were not white, the non-white creators, right? If they're acknowledged, if we are created equal, and still acknowledging that we're all different, but there is some equality there, and there's still, if just because I'm not white does not mean that I'm slower, that does not mean I'm less than. You wouldn't need to do this stuff now. And so until we get it right, then yeah, let's keep the month going. Until we can do it right, then we need the commercials. Until we can do it right, then Target needs to put up a whole section to showcase Black companies. And anybody that has problems with that, go to a different business, because we're not going anywhere. And I think that's where the problem comes in.
But why does it have to be just for Black History Month? And then also with these companies, I agree with you, Taria, that I think it's great to showcase. But then also, are you making spaces, actual spaces and rooms in your corporation and in your business for African Americans? Because we've seen, like, you guys going back to films. Did y'all watch Malcolm and Marie?
Not yet. I want to though.
So I started watching it. I was watching it and I was like, so I was watching it and I put on Twitter, I was like, this can't be real, because why she just haven't sewn him into the sheets and poured hot grits on him yet? And then somebody else on Twitter was like, because a white writer wrote this. And I don't have a problem with white writers, but what I'm getting from this is that a lot of our stories are being told by non-Black people in a lot of our films. And it's like, guys, you can't be inclusive whilst not being inclusive. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't write our stories, tell our histories, and then not include us in the process.
See, I think with that movie, because I was reading some reviews about it, like the movie critics, and I don't think he was necessarily just trying to tell, it's not our story. You know, it was one of the writers or directors. He was, he's angry or something at Hollywood. So it was basically kind of more so about the person who directed or wrote it. It was more about him and his anger. And then it's like, oh, well, let me get John, what's the first name? Denzel's son and Zendaya because they're good actors, and let's just put it together. So we can look at it like, because I mean, I've heard that it's just basically toxic and you can't get through it. So a lot of things can come and portray out of that. Like, are you trying to say Black love is toxic? You know, that can be misconstrued. But when I was reading it, it was more so about.
But you can't disassociate. If you're going to have a Black male writer and tell that story, even though you're a white male, and I understand that you may have just picked him because he's a good actor, you can't disassociate the Black male experience, because in real life, his experience is always going to have the undercurrent of being a Black man on top of how hard it is to be a writer in Hollywood. And so you can't just say, well, I was just writing about a man who is struggling in Hollywood, because that the undercurrent is always going to be, you're writing about a Black man who is struggling. Because when he auditions or when he submits scripts or when he's trying to get on, that is always going to be something that is going to be looked at. You can't take that out of, you know, it would be like if someone wrote a story about being a lawyer. I was just writing about being a lawyer. Well, and I just thought that it would be cool to write a story about how hard it is to be a young lawyer. Well, if you're talking about a woman, you can't take that out because we're treated differently in the legal community. If you're talking about Black lawyers, you can't take that out and just say, I'm going to write about, you know, the experience. You have to tell the whole experience.
So then
And you
let
have
me
to
ask you,
acknowledge it.
Yeah.
So my question is, and this is what I was thinking about this year. I don't know why 2021 brought this up, but I was like, how long will we have Black History Month? And do we need to continue to have it? I asked my
I
friends
think we
this.
need to continue to have it. I think
What?
we do need to continue to have it. I think because one, everybody else has their own month too. So we need to keep ours. But I also think every single month we need to talk about it. Like I
I
just think we
think
do need to continue to have it.
I think that we need to also strive and encourage to include Black history in the curriculum outside of February. Do I think that we need to get rid of Black History Month? No. But do I think that, Black History Month, now all of a sudden all the elementary school kids dressing like Black characters, they can do this in April too? Like it doesn't just have to be February. Because I also think about so much other things that I don't learn about, like Asian history, Hispanic history. And it's like past Cesar Chavez, what else do you learn? And it's like there are other cultures who have contributed so much to the American experience. And on one end, we say we're a melting pot. However, where's the melting pot? Because we only 90% of the time learn about one side of who's contributing.
And we don't really talk about women's history.
Oh yeah,
Besides,
and it's Women's History Month.
yeah,
I would say
Susan B.
Women's History
Anthony
Month.
and the lady who ran the women's suffrage movement. After that, we don't have discussions about it. I mean, how many jokes were made about Justice Ruth? Like, and that's my issue, and it's always been my issue. Is that we all, if you are not a white male, we are all underneath a white male's hands in the United States of America. And
Right.
nobody wants to talk about that. They want to focus on minorities having issues and just not, being okay with being okay, and always want to drag in their issues. But if you're not a white male, you should have an issue with how our country's run.
Right.
But why?
It's not,
because they always have privilege, though. They're not going to have an issue because it's not affected. They get upset when it starts affecting them and they start feeling inferior. But they don't have an issue because it's always been about them. They're not going to come in and be like, oh, I don't care. They're not talking about anybody else because, hey, you're still talking about me. It's like a selfish
but
thing.
I'm saying, like, as people always want to say, white people have no issue. Like, it's always the minorities with the issues. But if you're a white woman and trying to figure out how to say it, whatever. If you're a white woman and you're any way working outside the home, even in the home, you should have an issue, because the way our country is set up, it's not for any of us really to succeed as much as the white man, period. And if we really look at that, I mean, as a white woman, if I talk to white females who are lawyers, they will say time and time again, especially depending on what area of law that you sit in, you will be the only one. Or there might be one other woman. And they're going to make horrible jokes that are like, if reports were made, there'd be a lot of people sitting underneath some jails, okay? And we just take it. And the comments are made afterwards like, it's not fair, it shouldn't be this way, I shouldn't be told what I have to wear to work, I shouldn't be told how I should act, I shouldn't be silenced. And yet white men are the ones who still lead the pack, and no one, we don't push them. And if everybody got together and said, this is not okay, then it could change.
But hold on, because I think the difference in that, Saria, is that when we talk about the white woman, although she faces some of the same struggles, America is kind of, society is taught to protect the white woman. So even though her voice may be muffled, she's still looked at as protect her. That's why when we talk about, if you look at the women's suffrage movement, if you look at women voting rights, if you look at the Me Too movement, these were kind of white women and minority women got together But when it became beneficial for white women to pull away and to separate themselves, then that's what happened, right? So like if you watch this movie on Hulu about, I think it's called like Miss America or something.
With Shirley Chisholm. Shirley Chisholm.
It wasn't with Shirley Chisholm. I think it was, I forgot who, but it was a woman who didn't want women, like she believed women should stay in the home and shouldn't work and things like that. But if we look at like those type of movements, African American women played huge roles and then somehow along the way get erased. You know, like the Me Too movement was started by an African American woman, okay? And somehow it ended up protecting nothing but non-African American women. Look at the people who went to jail. The people who went to jail were Bill Cosby. Most of his victims were white women. Harvey Weinstein, okay? R. Kelly, who raped mostly black women, he's in jail now, but he even went to trial.
Right.
You know, like it was like, and they had to have a 3-part series to even arrest him before people literally had to be rioting in the streets to even get him arrested. And he already walked on like 4 different other cases. But nobody cared because he wasn't really doing this to anyone but black women. But the Me Too movement, it started out as an African American woman saying, you know, this happened to me too. And then we all kind of came together and it was like, me too, me too. And then somehow we got left behind. We still getting raped. We still ain't found our girls. What happened to finding our girls in DC? What happened to them girls?
I agree with you, Sam. I definitely agree with you. I wholesomely agree with you on that.
She's about to bring you back on topic. I'm about to bring you back on topic. You ain't on topic.
About to bring you back on another episode about that because I'm very passionate how black women are not protected and you know how black men don't protect us either. So that need to be we can keep going because you're right. And I personally, they ain't come from me. I don't care. I don't have sympathy for the white woman. I don't. Real talk. Y'all can come for me and counsel me. That's fine. We need some more viewers. I don't have sympathy for the white woman because you've always been protected. But I do not celebrate, you know, national women rights or whatever, voting rights. I don't, because when women had the right to vote, it was not black women. It was only white women. So pull up. I'm excited when the Civil Rights Act passed the right to vote for all black people, because that's when black women had the right to vote, when black people had the right to vote. And then there was an issue in that too, because we really still couldn't vote. So me personally, I don't have sympathy for the white woman.
I do, but I just wish that we could, I wish that we could stay on brand, because I see so many times in history where we do come together and we're empowered, and then we get left out of the narrative, and it's like, hey, my white sister, don't forget about me. I was with you. I was standing with you. So I just think that we need to still unify, to stay unified, because to say that women, whatever race you are, to say that you're treated equally, yes, you are. White women in America are treated differently than black women. That is true. However, they still face oppression. And I'm not naive to that, but I think that I would like for us to remain unified in that struggle. Don't just, because you got what you wanted,
and so
about us.
And then I agree, we definitely need to stay unified, but that's the problem. We helped you to get your protection, so then come help us. Or we shouldn't have to beg you to be like, oh, you remember me? You remember I helped you get your voting rights? You know, we shouldn't have to. It should be like, no, my sister over here helped me. We all helped each other. Ain't nobody helping us over here. We fighting each other and trying to fight for ourselves. But again, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day.
But I do think this last year, I have seen more allies come together. So I don't don't want that to be swept under the rug. That we have seen, I know some of my white colleagues call out racism, call out oppression, saying, yeah, it's me, but what about her? Bringing us back into the narrative. So I don't want that to be lost. But I just want us to be remembered. The Black woman is the most underpaid, right? So we make the least. We work the hardest, because if you look at statistics, we don't take vacations because we're so scared that we're going to lose our job if we take vacations. And like if you look at our crimes, less likely to be prosecuted on the same degree if you commit a crime for a Black woman. In criminals, rapists and killers take that into account. That's why you see some who only kill Black women or only rape Black women, because they're less likely to be prosecuted to the same level.
And domestic violence and sexual assault is higher among Black women in the Black community among Black women.
Right.
So. And we are, because people don't want to acknowledge it, we are the most educated, hands down. Running, we've lapped everybody.
True.
We've lapped
including
them.
Men.
Including men. Okay. And people don't want to acknowledge that. Our own people don't want to acknowledge. Our own Black men don't want to acknowledge that. Okay. I was with somebody recently, and they're like, "Oh, you're just a lawyer," and I said, "Ooh."
Right. That's it. Mm-hmm.
Well, it doesn't matter to them, to them, because 1 minute. And yes, I'm calling out Black men for a second. 1 minute y'all say, I want an educated sister. I want somebody who could bring something to the table. And now I come to the table. I done brought the table, the seats, the chairs, the food, the plates. Well, y'all act like y'all don't need nobody. Y'all act like y'all too independent. Just because you got a house, a car, you want an independent person, but you want to stay at home person. Like,
listen, we getting that's a whole
you just a lawyer, but you a lawyer. Like,
let someone else say. But let someone else say, you just a lawyer. Be ready to fight.
Right.
Be ready to fight. Okay.
Just a lawyer. I done worked hard to get to where I am.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So, and you know what? I can keep it back on task. That's why we need Black History Month, so that the Black men can understand that just like they suffered, we did too. But while we were suffering, we were quietly catching these degrees, okay, right, and making a difference. And that's why you have what was the movie? The movie that came out that everybody loved, that talked about the astronauts and the scientists that helped.
Hidden Figures.
Yes,
Hidden Figures, right? Everybody loved the movie. They're like, oh my gosh, was that real? It was. Those 4 women are real things. We were still struggling, but we were still getting our degrees and working.
But can we talk about something now? Because do y'all notice in Black history that most of the Black females history is still attributed to a male?
Because we don't talk about the Black females in Black history. We don't talk about Madam C.J. Walker. You don't talk about Harriet Tubman. You don't talk. I mean, we talk about Rosa Parks, but people don't know that Rosa Parks wasn't the first person, not to give her seat up on the bus. We don't know that. And that's why. So my thing about with that too is that's why we need to educate our youth. History starts at home. We need to teach our history. We need to dig down deeper than outside of whatever's in the history books and teach our youth about our Black history. Black history is also, I would encourage us to even go look in your own ancestors. Like my aunt did a book for us that we found that our people from Georgia, and they were sharecroppers. We can teach our own history to our children because you never know what's going to find out. So,
another reason why it's so important for us to teach history is because we were slaves. So when you talk to other colleagues and they talk about my great-great-grandfather, he was an Irish general for the army, and we don't have those records. So every history fact we attribute it to us. Like, I
Mhm.
don't know. I think Frederick Douglass could be my great 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 grandfather because we don't know. And so we need to protect our culture because you could very well have been related to Harriet Tubman, especially you, Brandy, because you know you be be passionate, child. Be telling the people out. But yeah, so it's literally the only way that we have to look at our history as a collective and as it's our family history because we don't have records, we didn't have birth certificates, we didn't have anything to tie us back. So yeah, even if you do the ancestry, you only go so far, and then you can go back to Africa and see like what tribe you were for, but there's still that gap. You know, there's still that gap from the time that your ancestors left Africa to America, and then somehow you end up back in like early 1900s, like 1919, 1920. You know, but I think
And being okay with, because I grew up with being the only one. I've always been the token, and
right.
I'd hear about, oh, my grandfather, had all this land, and oh, this person had all this land. And we have hundreds and hundreds and thousands of acres of land, right? And I'd be like, man, I don't have all that. Now, on my father's side, my great grandfather was, well, yeah, my great grandfather was a sharecropper. So in Tyler, Texas, we have a ton of land, and so then we know that there was slavery that came from slaves, right? But now as I'm older, I'm like, you know what? I wish as a child I would have said my grandparents were survivors because we weren't supposed to make it out of slavery.
Right.
The whole reason was to kill us, right? Kill us, beat us, kill us, just get us out. And so, to me, when I think about Black history, I think about how strong we are. I'm still, going through the Bible, reading my daily. I'm behind by 3 days. Let me go ahead and tell the people. I'm behind by 3 days, but I'm going to catch up today. But I'm around the time with the Israelites. And to see these people come out of slavery and, God helped them. And, some of their issues were caused of themselves because they just didn't want to listen. So they had to go to the wilderness about 40 years because they just wouldn't listen. They just wouldn't do right. But they were strong. And I think if people in other races understood what we really truly, and I'm talking about Black people, I'm not talking about people, no offense, I'm not talking about Nigerians, I'm not talking about Jamaicans, I'm talking about people who came here and were descendants of slaves.
You about to start something.
I am.
They gonna come follow us.
That's okay. That's okay.
They gonna come follow us today.
Come on, I'm okay with that. But if you are descendants of slavery, I know you're strong because you weren't supposed to make it. And so every time someone knocks us down and says that we can't do anything else, rise up from what's on the inside because someone dug deep in their heels through the beatings and the lashings and the rapings to continue on. And so that's why our history needs to be here. So anybody wants to come for me today that I said because you're a descendant of slavery and you did not come over here to get an education and then go back home, I'm okay. I'm okay. My ancestors, the ones that Paula White called up, they're going to protect me. So I know I'm okay.
Paula White called people the angels from Africa, child. She didn't mean to call it. She called the wrong angels.
She did.
But since we already went over time, but I really want to get to this survey. Sam, let's talk about this survey.
Oh,
I can't end the show without talking about the survey.
So what I found interesting was we sent out a survey for Black History Month. And I just randomly asked people to send it to whoever you could. I didn't take it because I made up the questions, but you guys took it, right? And just to see if we really learn about Black history facts. So just to let y'all know, nobody scored 100. Okay. Let's go through some of the questions first. Who is Barbara Jordan? Do y'all know?
The first African American woman from Texas elected to the House Rep, U.S. House Rep.
That's right. 20 people. We got 20 people who got this correct. The next one was, who is Shirley Chisholm? She was the first African American woman to seek a nomination for the president of the United States. 22 people got this correct. Where did Martin Luther King Jr. attend college? Morehouse. So here's where it got a little dicey for people. What year did slavery end? It was 1865.
I mean, some people say we're still sitting in slavery, but so
Right.
technically,
that's up for debate.
Okay, so can we say this though? People who be like, we're still enslaved, y'all, that is disrespectful to the ancestors. We are not, we're still oppressed, but we are not in slavery. Okay. I know when I go to work, I come home, I get a check, I go back to my house. Okay.
I'm not getting beat if I miss a day.
A lot of people got this one incorrect. Only 6 people got this right. Who was the first Black woman to host a talk show? So many people thought it was Oprah Winfrey. The answer is Della Reese, Touched by an Angel. She was the first African American woman to host a talk show. Now, Oprah was the first Black woman to get syndicated, to have a syndicated talk show. But Della Reese was the first Black woman to host a talk show. Who was the first African American woman to receive an Academy Award? The answer was Hattie McDaniels. Shout out to Miss Hattie McDaniels, because fun fact, she was the first person to get the award, but she wasn't even allowed to sit in the award ceremony. She had to sit in the, I think, janitors, like with the cleaning crew. Would not allow for her to come and sit to accept her award.
So she got it with the win too.
Huh?
Did she get it for Gone with the Wind?
Yes, she got it for Gone with the Wind.
For portraying the slave, right?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, she was the nanny slave.
Wasn't she like the slave or something?
She was a mammy.
Yeah, she was a mammy for Scarlett.
I won't watch that movie, by the way.
You've never seen Gone with the Wind?
I won't. I'm not gonna watch that. No. To say it's the best movie of all time, it's for what? For why?
Well, that go back to, never mind. I'm not already said it earlier. But
African American women were considered, African Americans were considered what fraction of each state's slave population toward the state's total population? The answer is 3/5. So when they were counting the population in the states, we were only considered 3/5 of a person when they were considering the population. We weren't even a whole person. I'm
it's
not
okay.
even sure.
Our governor still feels that way about all of us. So.
But I'm not even sure why that was like, why, who came up with the idea?
Oops, they gonna come for me again? Hey, I'm okay.
How? I don't understand the rationale behind that. I would love for someone to explain to me why the 3/5 was even
a thing. I'm gonna research that.
Also, who is Frederick Douglass?
The leader of the civil rights movement.
No.
I don't understand why people put that.
He was not the leader of the civil rights movement.
Why did 4 people think he was the leader of the civil rights movement?
So why did one person think he was the creator of the Underground Railroad?
True.
I think he did assist Harriet Tubman in the Underground, but Harriet Tubman created it.
Right. But I'm still mad at the 4 people who said he was the leader of the civil rights movement.
He was the national leader of the abolitionists, okay? He was an ex-slave, and he taught himself how to read and write. He was very accomplished in the abolitionist movement. Who is Colin Powell? The first African-American U.S. Secretary of State, okay?
Under the Bush administration.
Under the Bush administration, Colin, we side-eyed Colin and Condoleezza Rice, but at least they didn't ride with the Trump vote. So they redeemed. I think.
Oh, I didn't side-eye Colin, and I love Uncle Colin and Condi.
I think. I definitely side-eyed Condi, yeah, but she's all right. Going back to the abolitionist movement, I just want to point out that Frederick Douglass and a lot of white males worked together to help abolish slavery. And so that's why it was so prominent, because he brought in a lot of politicians and people to help end slavery. Okay, and so out of this, the average score was 67%, and majority of African American took these took this took this quiz. And so we did not do well, guys. We still need to learn about history.
That just proved our point. Black history is 365 days.
And let me say this, while some people would throw shade about non-Black people, so there were, I think, 4 Asian people and 6 white people who identified themselves as white. They took this and they scored like 89%. So if Black History Month is for us, we need to do a better job of paying attention, okay?
Well, on that note, thank you to everybody who took our survey. That was great. Let's move on to rest my case. What are we resting, Taria?
I'm still deciding, so I'll bring up the rear.
Sam?
Because I don't know.
Okay, so here's the deal, guys. I was on Twitter and I saw this video clip about a girl saying that African American hair, you don't need any oils or any grease or anything for our hair. She's a natural hairstylist, and all you need to do is wash and condition your hair, and then you just put more water on it, more water on it, more water on it. Okay. And I was concerned by this. Okay. And it made me think about a lot of the misinformation that people are putting out there, because I actually went online to see if this was true. Like, went to a Black chemist, a beauty chemist, and she's like, this absolutely not, like, I guess it's like a thing that's going around where, you know, we're really into natural hair, and some people like put oils on it, put this on it. And I understand everyone has a different method, and there's this thing called a water method and all that stuff. But I say this to say, everyone with a blue check by their name, everyone, just because you have a bunch of likes and followers, does not mean you're an expert in that field. Stop taking these people's advice. Anyone can buy a web camera and a ring light and post and say a bunch of bull cone, okay? Do not just take these influencers who may or may not spend time educating themselves on what they're putting out there. But I see so much misinformation, and the lawyer in me is like, how is this not a liability? Because if somebody does this and they hair fall out, what happens? But please do your own research. And if you are an influencer, I use that loosely because I think everybody thinks they're an influencer now. If you're an influencer and you have a blue check, or you have 15,000, 20,000, 30,000 people following you, please do your research. Don't just put misinformation out there. Please. That's what I want to.
Well, you know, anybody can get a blue check now. All you need is like over 3,000 followers, and then apply to Instagram. So, because I've seen people who got a blue check, and I'm like, how you get a blue check? Nobody know you, but they got 3,000-4,000 followers.
Well, I don't care about the blue check, but I'm just saying you have a blue check because people like your posts. You don't have a blue check because you have been given the Nobel Peace Prize and you've actually become an expert in your field. A blue check is not a medal of honor. Okay, it just means a bunch of people like whatever you post, and that could be you doing the Tootsie Roll or the Up Challenge or the Bust It Down Challenge, or that could be you just talking a bunch of bull corn. It doesn't mean that what you're saying is accurate.
But I want people to black women. You do need to wash your hair, because after a while, I know your
No,
scalp.
she was saying you wash your hair, but she was saying you wash your hair, you condition your hair, and then you just like wash and go, and you put like conditioner on it. You don't need nothing else.
Everybody's hair texture is different
It's
too.
different.
It work for everybody. Like,
and the secret thing is in her video, everybody hair look dry. Like, but I didn't want to tear her down because I have a problem with like tearing down, you know, like people, like if that's what she wants to do, if she's a hairstylist, I'm not gonna rain on her parade. But I did post on her post the video of the beauty chemist so that she can take a look at that, because the beauty chemist broke down the scientific facts.
That's smart. Teachable moment.
I have mine.
Go ahead. I'll end it out with mine. Go ahead.
Can we stop giving opinions that no one asked for?
That's going into mine.
I think, y'all know, again, everybody coming from me, so it's totally okay. Social media should go away. Okay, I've said this. I'm going to continue to say it. When it goes away, I'm going to host a party. Okay, the social media ending party, because everybody wants to give their opinions. And instead of taking care of your own household, taking care of your own children, your own man, your own bills, you worry about everybody else's. And just if we each stayed and took care of our homes first, and then if you had extra time, went and took care of somebody else's home, I believe we'd be okay. But instead, we're too busy worrying about what everybody else is doing. And that leads me to my point. If you decide that you want to take the vaccine, take the vaccine. If you decide that you don't want the vaccine, okay, because you believe that this is a plight to wipe out the Black people, don't take the vaccine. However, do not put your opinions on whatever choice people make. Don't make them feel bad for the decisions that they're making for their household. So in 2021, let's take care of us and our households. And then if you have extra time, and that's you prayed, you drank your water, you exercised, and you have extra time left over, then go ahead to your neighbor's house and see what they're doing. But I believe that you won't have time because you should be asleep at that point.
When they say sleep around your own front door
before you sweep around mine.
As my husband would say, mow your own grass.
Well, mine rests my case, because usually I don't have one. So when I do,
praise the Lord.
They already gonna come for me because I talked about the white women. I'm okay with that. Now I'm gonna talk about Texans. Y'all getting on my good ass nerves. Y'all getting on my nerves. Stop acting surprised every time y'all governor get on TV and do some dumb ish. Stop it. We're opening, everybody know who in Texas, we're opening up. We're busted wide open come Wednesday. Just know that. We busting wide open come Wednesday. We may be shut down again come June or July. However, if you mad, angry, and upset, I'm tired of seeing it. Everybody got an opinion, whatever. Don't be surprised. Y'all putting on social media, going out talking, I ain't doing this, whatever. Just remember all of these antics in 2022 when it's time to vote. Remember that. Remember that we were 4 minutes away from permanently losing power for however long. Remember that. Remember that the governor said we gonna be busted wide open 100%. So while y'all on social media getting mad, talking about what you ain't gonna do, keep that same energy in 2022 and go vote. But y'all gonna forget.
They gonna get these stimmies and they gonna completely forget about it.
Yeah, they gonna forget. So I'm tired of hearing.
And let me say this too. Some of the same people that's complaining about the mask mandate and all this stuff be the same people at the address.
When Ben had
no mask on.
You been at 15 with no mask on.
You've been doing your thing anyway.
That's
so
stop.
Stop
people come out. As for me and my house, we wearing a mask. Y'all wasn't wearing no mask. You wasn't wearing a mask today, yesterday, whatever. I'm tired. I agree with Taria. We need to get rid of social media because, listen, y'all stressing me out.
And you weren't wearing the mask correct anyway.
Because you had it below your nose. Like, it was here.
That's why you had corona. Try to figure out why you got corona. Girl, I don't know how I got it. I wore a mask. No, you didn't. Your mask was
you wearing your mask under your chin.
That's how you
Wear
got
your
it.
mask right here.
You never washed your cloth mask.
Wanna be here. Y'all be wearing your mask right here.
You never washed a cloth mask. You only bought one medical mask, and you've been using it for a whole 12 months, and you're confused that you got the corona. I can tell you how you got it, but I'm not a doctor. I'm just a lawyer, so I'm gonna feel like I don't know how.
Because I'm telling you, y'all working my nerves. But I want everybody who complaining, keep that same energy next year. Keep that same energy. Because if Abbott is governor again, I blame those that was complaining that he got rid of the mask. Because it was probably you that's gonna vote for him next year.
And it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter who comes against him. We need to do the same thing we did for y'all's former president. If it was Big Bird's the new president.
Mm-hmm. You're right. And on that note, this was fun. I have missed y'all. This was fun. I have missed y'all. We said we was gonna do 30 minutes, and we did not.
However, know, it's kind of like church service. When the spirit moves, you can't just cut. The ancestors was moving today, baby. You can't just cut off when the spirit is moving.
Did you just fall back? We gonna get.
I did. I caught the spirit.
Tarita knows she from that Kojic church. Okay, right. You know when the spirit moves, you might be there till 7 p.m. child.
Correct. And my pastor in Houston, he'll dismiss, because there's always some people who the spirit didn't come to them because the spirit can't house in your body. Right. So he'll just go ahead and dismiss for those people and say, hey, may the Lord watch between me and them, and the music kind of dying down just a little bit so we can usher y'all out, and then we pick it back up. Because we weren't finished. Finished yet.
Well, you can follow me at what's my Instagram? It's been a minute. I was like, you can follow me at brand_Janae on Instagram and Facebook, because they're the same name now. Sam, are they following you today? Or are they gonna follow you to the polls?
You can follow. You gonna follow me today, okay? Fraz, FRAZ 22 on Instagram.
T Hutch. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's it.
Oh, T Hutch.
Simply being T. I need followers. I don't really have that many followers on Instagram. It probably is because I don't really post anything on Instagram. My life's kind of boring.
Why they don't follow you if you don't post anything?
But you know what? Taria been giving me inspirational messages every day in her stories. I be like, oh, that's a good word. Amen. Amen. So
Taria told me to stop posting my stuff. She's like, stop telling these people.
Stop giving this free advice.
Before you get tomatoes thrown at you. Stop helping the
I do it when she ain't worth it. But as always, you can follow No Further Questions at NFQ Pod on Twitter, at No Further Q on Instagram, and No Further Questions on Facebook. Keep liking, sharing, posting, tell your friends, tell a loved one, tell your enemies. We'll take them too. But tune in to the next episode. Happy March, springtime, and we're out.